Monday, June 27th, 2022. The last Monday in June, the last 10 and J-Man show in June. It's episode 293, I believe, if I'm not getting mistaken off the top of my head. Everything's right in the world, or not right in the world, but everything's right in my sports world, J-Man. The Avalanche are Stanley Cup champs for the first time since 2001.
You know, the Avalanche winning just means nothing good's going to happen to the city of Denver for like a decade. So they've used up all their magic there.
It's kind of what happened last time when they won in 01. The Broncos, I think, went from 05 clear to 2011 without making the playoffs. And the Rockies did make a World Series in between then, but haven't done anything since. Nuggets, I think they made a Western Conference Finals somewhere in there. But yeah, no, you might be spot on there, but the Avalanche should be good for the next few years at least, and they got it done. It was worrying me a little bit, down 1-0 after the first period last night. I'm like, here we go. Lightning's going to tie this thing up at 3 games apiece and have all the momentum going back to Denver in Game 7 on Tuesday, but it has found a way to claw back and get her done.
Yes, sir. I did not watch any of it.
I got more to talk about it, but I can talk about later on in the show. I know we got segments to get into at the top of the show.
I got some Birdie Bogey here for you. I wish I would have done an NHL question. I didn't even think about it, to be honest.
That would have been a bogey.
But I got an NBA draft question here.
Probably going to be a bogey.
And you've probably seen it already. What Big Ten school has the most first-round draft picks of all time? It's pretty straightforward.
I've not seen this. So,
what Big Ten school has the most first-round NBA draft picks of all time? This school in particular is 6th all-time. So we have Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, Kansas, and then this school. And actually, there's another Big Ten school right behind them at 7th.
Interesting. I'm going to have to think because the Big Ten has such a rich history in basketball.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been like schools that have had great stretches of time where they might have sucked in the 80s, good in the 90s, terrible in the 2000s, good in the 2010s. Good in the 2020s. I don't know. So there hasn't been like one consistently great program since 2000. I mean, Purdue's been pretty dang consistent here the past 15 years or so. Michigan State obviously hasn't missed a tourney. Wisconsin's, I think, only missed one tourney since 2000. Michigan's had a good run here the past 10, 12 years or so. Indiana's struggled. Illinois has struggled up until the past couple years. So, but this is all time. So back, I don't even know when the first NBA draft was. So this particular school has 28.
I'm thinking in my head, and I'm thinking the usuals. You know, you got Michigan State, even Illinois, Ohio State, ones that pump out pros. And then in my head, see, I'm already confusing myself because then in my head I'm thinking, ooh, Maryland.
Yeah, it's a sneaky one.
So I'm gonna have to think about this all show long. So it's a good one. It's a good one. But
Birdie Bogey is brought to you by Noble Gnome LLC for fresh, locally grown, nutrient-dense produce from Bryce and Katie Romine of Mentone, Indiana. Like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, and check out their website, noblegnomellc.com. Get your veggies. It is knee high by the 4th of July. It is up to the corn is up. It's not too tall yet, but seems like it has exploded here within the past week or so because we actually got some rain on Saturday, but knee high by the 4th of July.
Yeah, we didn't get much rain on Saturday. Very little.
We got like 2 inches of rain in the span of like 4 hours. It poured down rain. We needed it because the grass was dead.
Yeah. I mowed my front yard tonight, and I was having trouble seeing the lines where I mowed because it's so dry.
Yeah, that happens.
Frustrating, but I got myself recently an electric mower. Ever mow with one of those?
I had never even heard of an electric mower before, but my future mother-in-law has one, and I actually helped her out.
They're pretty nice
doing that. You just plug them in and roll.
I did have to order a new battery for it tonight because the battery, I don't know how old the battery. I got this used, I should say. I don't know how old the battery is in this one, and it seems to not quite finish half my yard, and then it goes out.
Dies.
So
gotcha.
I'm thinking it probably wouldn't hurt to have a backup battery anyways, so you can always have one charged and ready to go when that happens.
Is it not one that you just plug into an outlet? It's just it just has a battery.
Right. You charge the battery with the charger into the outlet.
Gotcha.
But then it just clips in.
The one I have used, you literally plug it into an extension cord and you just do it like that. So I have not used the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So well, they seem to be becoming more popular.
Yeah, people, especially paying for gas and stuff,
It's true.
even just a small little mower, it still adds up.
It's true.
That's where we're at here. So.
Well, your Birdie Bogey was NBA draft related. So why don't we talk about the NBA draft?
Let's do it.
How much did you watch of it?
I watched I had it on in the background. I wasn't necessarily watching, but I watched up until about pick, I would say 27 or so, 26.
That's probably 27. About when I even had the second round on as background noise for a little bit, and then I got too tired and went to bed.
Yeah, had 2 Big Ten players taken in the top 5 picks. When's the last time that's happened? Do you know by chance?
Indiana, Oladipo and Zeller.
Oh, that's right. Dippo and Zeller. That's right. Yeah. Keegan Murray went 4th to the Kings, and of course Jaden Ivey to the Pistons.
As a Purdue fan and a Jaden Ivey fan, I'm very happy where he ended up to the Pistons. Mm-hmm. The Purdue part of me, of course, he's with Carson Edwards. Not sure if Carson will last with them, but that's pretty cool. And I just think Jaden's a good fit. Pair him with Kate Cunningham there. I think Detroit can be pretty good here pretty quickly. I did not want him to go to Sacramento. That's where players go to die.
Yeah. Sacramento is notorious for taking a player and then the guy taken directly after their pick turns into Steph Curry for one. Yep. It was one of them. They took Jimmer Fredette over him, I believe. They took who was the big guy out of Duke, and then Trae Young and Luka Doncic went right after him. What was the Marvin Bagley? That was it. Yeah. So Sacramento is known for.
Didn't they even take Willie Cauley over somebody too?
I'm sure they did. They've taken. I mean, there have been so many guys over the years, and I told this story back a few weeks ago that the reason why Sacramento didn't take Luka Doncic is because Vlade Divac, their president, had some beef with Doncic's dad or something like that. He didn't like their family, so he hurts the franchise by not taking him. And now Doncic's a superstar, and you don't even hear about Marvin Bagley anymore.
Nope. And Kings, I mean, they haven't been relevant since we were young. I mean, 02, 03. They should have made the finals over those Lakers teams at least once. Didn't, and they haven't been relevant. I did hear the other day, here's a little trivia question for you. Besides the Kings, who's the only other team in the NBA who has not made the playoffs the past 5 seasons?
Past 5 seasons?
The Kings have the longest streak. This team is number 2.
Man, that's a good question. Looking through all the teams here, I don't know. Would it be LeBron's been in Cleveland since then, so it's not Cleveland.
Well, in Cleveland, I don't know if you technically say they made the playoffs this year or not.
I know the Timberwolves obviously have here. Recently, they did have a long drought though.
Timberwolves made it this year.
Yeah, oh, that's right. They did make it this year, didn't they? Is it Washington Wizards?
It is not. Good guess though, because they've really fallen off.
Yeah, ever since John Wall left. Who is it?
Charlotte Hornets.
I was gonna say Charlotte, but for whatever reason, I mean they were in the play-in this year.
That's true.
But that I wouldn't count it. So
yeah, they they got rid of the Bobcats nickname, thinking that was part of their bad luck. They're gonna go back to Hornets, and they haven't done anything since then.
Haven't done a single thing since. Man, it's have we ever seen like a player and like a guy like Michael Jordan, for instance, be so good at playing, but then be just the worst executive ever? He is terrible.
We probably have. They just get fired or quit, and Michael's sticking with it, and he hasn't got removed. So that's why.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who would be even a guy that we could even consider that was a great player but a terrible exec. I'm trying to think baseball. I can't really think of any. John Elway won a Super Bowl.
Matt Miller wasn't very good.
Matt Millen's a good. That's a very good. That's a good poll there. That's accurate. He's a really good player.
And he's not a good commentator either.
He was a terrible commentator. Terrible exec with the Lions, and trying to think who there's got to be other guys.
Talk about some draft whiffs.
Yeah,
he was in charge.
The Lions are notorious for that, kind of like the Kings. They're very similar.
They really are. They really are. Who would be your baseball equivalent of those two teams?
That's what I was just trying to think. Who it would be. I
mean, besides Jeter those 2 years,
Jeter was a terrible exec with the Marlins, and he's no longer there.
I was asking you more of the team related, like the Lions and the Kings. Who's the baseball equivalent? Besides those 2 years, I would almost say the Royals, but the Royals have won a World Series.
Won within the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Tigers have been to a few World Series within the last decade.
I mean, I guess the easy thing you could say with the playoff drought would be the Mariners.
But I mean, probably the Mariners, I would say. The Pirates have only had like 2 good years since the 90s, early 90s.
You can almost throw the Reds in there.
Years. Yeah, Reds have only had 3 or so playoff years since 96 or so. Those would be the teams that I would think. Baltimore's only had maybe 2 playoff years.
That's a good one.
They're terrible.
Rockies are bad.
Yeah, Rockies are bad. I mean, they've had a few of them. And they had a World Series appearance. So
they have.
But they a long time ago now.
I'll save my comments about the Rockies when I talk about the Avalanche later. I got comments. I'll save.
All right.
Back to the draft.
Paolo is it Banchero?
That sounds right. I've heard it pronounced a few different ways.
I mean, I watched a lot of college basketball, and for whatever reason, I don't ever remember hearing his last name actually said. But he goes number 1 overall to the Orlando Magic, joining Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal. So some pretty lofty names to try to live up to.
I remember when Dwight went number 1. I thought Emeka Okafor was going number 1 that year.
Yeah, Emeka Okafor had a pretty good career.
Went to the Bobcats.
Yeah, 2nd overall. Yeah, the Bobcats were kind of a career killer there for a while too. Okafor lasted for years. He wasn't a superstar like people thought he was going to be. And Orlando was very smart taking Dwight. Looking back, Dwight. Chet Holmgren goes to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, it felt like they're on the clock about every 30 minutes here in the first round. They had multiple first-round picks.
Forgettable franchise. Mm-hmm. I know they've had some good years, and maybe it's because they made me become a Sonics fan by leaving Seattle, or I don't know what it is, but I just forget about them all the time.
They were obviously good there from about 2009 to 2017, would you say?
Probably, yeah.
And it's because they were terrible for one, and they hit on 3 straight drafts where they took Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. I mean, that's as good of a 3-year stretch run in a draft you could possibly have.
Well, technically, Durant was drafted and played for the Sonics.
For the Sonics. Same franchise.
But, I know, you're right. But
was Westbrook Oklahoma City's first official?
I think he was actually drafted by the Sonics, but then they moved.
And he
never played for the Sonics. I believe
gotcha.
So.
I'm gonna
go double check that. I want to fact check because I'm supposed to be a Sonics fan, so I got to know this.
I think you're a Pistons fan now.
Okay, yes. I'm glad you brought that up because I've always said I'm a Pacers fan. I've never been a huge NBA fan, but with Jaden Ivey and Carson Edwards being on the Pistons on June 27th, 2022, my NBA allegiance is with the Detroit Pistons until the Sonics come back.
Until the Sonics come back, we'll see.
There you have it.
I'm kind of the same way. I'd always call myself a Bulls fan, but then Darren Williams was drafted by the Utah Jazz, and now I was a Jazz fan for
you even had that
years,
cool retro
9 years,
jersey.
7 years. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So I was kind of a Jazz fan there. Now I'm back to being a Bulls fan with Io, and now hopefully Kofi Coburn, who signed with Utah as an undrafted free agent, can stick in the league.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, he did. Hopefully he can stick in the league. I have my doubts. He's just not an NBA type of guy in today's NBA, but I might have to bring out that Darren Williams jersey that hasn't fit me in 8 years, but I might try to wear it.
That Russell Westbrook was selected 4th overall in the 2008 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics, which then relocated to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder 6 days later.
6 days later, man.
6 days.
Yeah, I think, man, I've never been to Oklahoma City, so I don't want to rip on the city, but
What you gonna do?
But I'm gonna. Seattle is one of my favorite cities I've ever visited. It's gorgeous out there, so that's quite the downgrade in cities going from Seattle to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Yep.
But
they're coming back. Don't worry, Josh. They're coming back.
Chet Holmgren gets to go enjoy the tornadoes there in Oklahoma.
It's true.
Which I think he's such an interesting prospect because we've never seen any sort of player like him ever.
Right.
He's so skinny, can shoot the three ball, great passer, great shot blocker. It's just, it's hard to even envision a guy like him in the NBA. He kind of reminds you a little bit of Durant in that sense. Super skinny, tall, long.
But this guy was more beefy of Darko Milicic, though.
A little bit, yeah. Which he went second overall. So they're
talk about worst whiff ever. I mean, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo, Bosch. Those are your other four in the top five. Ouch.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, Darko coming over from Europe where we got to see Chet do some pretty impressive things at Gonzaga, one of the top teams in the country. So that should help his transition a little bit. But I'm interested to see him in the NBA and how he stacks up against these guys. I saw a video of him actually today. He was 16 years old at Steph Curry's camp. And he was guarding Steph Curry, or Steph Curry was guarding him, and he took him to the hole, had like this ridiculous crossover move on Steph Curry, and does like this up and under dunk, and Steph's just like shrugging, like I don't even know what I can do because he's guarding the 16-year-old, and now Chet gets to play in the NBA.
It's pretty cool,
pretty crazy. So.
Yep, and like you said, then Smith went number 3. Smith from Auburn went to the Rockets. The Rockets are in a weird spot as a franchise right now.
They have a lot of young guys. They have, who is it? Kevin Porter, I think his name is.
Sounds right.
And then they have another guy they took second overall last year. But yeah, Jabari Smith put up huge numbers at Auburn as a freshman this year. And obviously they think he's good enough to be third overall. And a lot of people were projecting him number 1 overall, and to get him third,
right.
That kind of feels like a steal for him.
Right. Then the first Big Ten player drafted was Keegan Murray out of Iowa to the Kings. Which didn't surprise me. The day of the draft, I kept reading how the Kings didn't even bring Ivy in for a workout. They're really high on Murray. I know the Pacers were really high on Murray in the 6th spot, which I think could have been a pretty good fit for him. But he goes to Sacramento, so good for him. Some good publicity for Iowa, I guess.
Yeah, he's the highest drafted Iowa player ever. You know who he kind of reminds me of? I haven't seen this comp anywhere. It could be a terrible comp, but he kind of reminds me of Sean Marion a little bit.
Okay.
6'7", 6'8", can shoot, good athlete, and he feels like a guy that's not going to put up massive superstar numbers, but he's going to be in the league till he's 37 and make a couple all-star teams. He just seems like that kind of demeanor as well. And again, hopefully for his sake, he does better in Sacramento than the previous many draft picks have. But yeah.
And Ivy went 5th to Detroit, like we hit on earlier. Johnny Davis was next out of the Big Ten, right?
After Ivy, it was Johnny Davis at 10 to the Wizards.
The Wizards. I couldn't even remember where he went. So that's pretty incredible, though.
After
where he was a year ago.
Both him and Murray. They're kind of very similar situations where Murray, they put up similar numbers as freshmen coming off the bench for good teams. And both end up being top 10 picks. I don't think anyone foresaw that coming into the year. So good for them. Now, if I were to choose a Big Ten player that has the highest probability to be a bust, I would say Johnny Davis. He wasn't very efficient. He was. I've said this, and maybe it's just because I'm bitter because I thought Kofi deserved it. But I thought Johnny Davis was one of the worst Big Ten players of the year ever. Ridiculously inefficient. Obviously, 6'4", 6'5", can shoot it a little bit. Good athlete, strong. Averaged like 8 rebounds a game at that size. but he's putting up 20 shots a game and he's only scoring 21 points. So I just think he has the highest probability of being a bust out of those 3 Big Ten players in the top 10.
Well, he ended the season on a bad note. I mean,
very bad note. Yeah,
lost to Nebraska, then the Big Ten tournament. Who beat him?
I stopped watching the Big Ten tournament after Illinois lost in game 1.
Well, I know Purdue beat Penn State, then Michigan State, then lost to Iowa.
Wisconsin lost to Michigan State.
Was
correct?
it Michigan State? Okay,
I think so.
I think you're right. And then they lost to Iowa State, of course.
Yeah, and Wisconsin could have lost to Colgate in round of 64. It was a real close game with 5 minutes left, and they found a way to win. But Wisconsin kind of limped to the finish line, and he did not help matters either.
What do you think about the Pacers pick at number 6 of Benedict Mathurin from Arizona?
Great shooter, good athlete. He's 6'6". he did say something stupid. I think it was him that said.
I got it right here. If you don't know what it is,
he said people keep saying LeBron's the best. Yeah, can you read it? I don't want to butcher it.
Yes, he says a lot of people say he's great. He said of James, I want to see how great he is. I don't think anybody's better than me. He's going to have to show it to me that he's better than me. Oh, boy. That's how you put a target on your back, youngster.
That's classic. 20 literally just turned 20 on June 19th, just a week ago. And I mean, hey, takes some balls to say that and shows extreme confidence to do that, which is what you want. But to call out one of the greatest players in the history of the game is pretty dumb. And I'm sure LeBron will be honestly, LeBron probably couldn't care less. Although LeBron does take offense to the smallest of things.
Yeah, he might have circled the Pacers. He actually might play in Indianapolis now, Pacer fans. You might actually get to see him. Usually, that's his rest day. Usually,
that's one of his rest days. Yeah. But Mathurin, man, I watched him put up. I'm gonna go look to see how much he put up. Illinois, Arizona played a great game in Champaign in December, and Illinois could not stop Benedict Mathurin. He shot 10 of 17 from the floor, 5 of 9 or 5 of 8 from 3, 30 points, 7 rebounds. Didn't matter who Illinois put on. DeMonte Williams, one of the better defenders in the Big Ten, couldn't stop him. Put Trent Frazier on him, even couldn't stop him. Mathurin 6'7", 195 pounds. A great scorer and kind of came out of nowhere. But I think he'll be a good pro. If it was anything like watching him torch Illinois this year.
What I always love is when we talk college basketball and especially when we used to play a lot of 2K, NBA 2K against each other, we always saw that guy drop 35 against Illinois. Saw that guy drop 40 against Purdue. It's always going back to our teams and the memories of guys just torching our teams. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I have at least one memory of Ivy tearing up Illinois. Illinois did a pretty good job on Keegan Murray this year. And Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis had one of the worst games of his season against Illinois. But Benedict Mathurin killed him. I'm trying to see who else. Illinois did a pretty good job against Mark Williams and Duke a 2 years ago. The Bulls took Dalen Terry out of Arizona, and I don't remember what he did against Illinois, but I'm eager to go look it up.
He must have not went off then, because he wouldn't have forgot.
They had about 8 guys that went off, and I'm not sure if he was one of them or not. Only averaged 8 points a game, so that's a classic Bulls guy to take a guy who started 37 games and averaged less than 10 points a game. What in the world? He must have tested out of this world at the combine or something.
Yeah,
because they did that with Patrick Williams a few years ago. He wasn't a scorer. Dalen Terry had 6 points against Illinois, so they did a pretty good job on him.
Yeah, and this is going a little off topic again. I just remember on 2K all the time, Tristan Thompson was the one you're always like, I remember when he grabbed 400 boards against Illinois.
At least 40 rebounds against Illinois. I looked it up not too long ago to see how many he actually got. I think he had 11 or something like that. It felt like he was grabbing every single one, though.
Oh, man.
Other players of note here, we have Malachi Branham out of Ohio State going 20th overall to San Antonio. Let me tell you, Illinois played Ohio State once this year, and he put up 30 against them. So
Purdue played Ohio State once, and he almost led a major comeback because he got hot at the end.
Yeah, he can cook once he gets going.
Yeah.
No one thought he'd be a one and done guy, but as the process started, he started climbing up draft boards quickly. To cement himself as a top 20 pick's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
David Roddy is an interesting one out of Colorado State.
Yeah, he's a bucket.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 255. He's a beast.
Struggled against Michigan in the tournament, though, if I remember correctly.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I bring him up is he was a popular guy on the Illinois message boards because there was a lot of rumors he was going to transfer to Illinois in the offseason. Then he ends up becoming a first-round pick in the NBA. I don't think many people saw that coming, but yeah, that's kind of an interesting one. Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame is another one who killed Illinois this year as a freshman.
Yeah, Ivy became the first product of South Bend, Indiana to be a first-round pick. Then Wesley goes in the first round. So you got two guys from South Bend, Indiana in the first round. Pretty cool.
Yeah, out of South Bend, Riley, which I played baseball there one time in high school, and it was the coldest game I've ever played. That's the only memory I have of South Bend Riley. But yeah, he 14 points a game.
I'm thinking of them. You play that? Never mind. So
no, that was South Bend. That was South Bend, Washington.
Okay,
that you're thinking.
Gotcha.
Of. Yeah, I know exactly what you're thinking of. But yeah, Blake Wesley. He was another guy that had a fantastic. He was born in 2003.
Oh my gosh, my back hurts right now. I'm 30 years old and my back's hurting.
My soul. Oh man, I don't even want to talk about him anymore. That made me so upset.
How about the other Indiana kid?
Yeah, Jake Larivia.
Yeah, what a story there.
Yeah.
Man, I did not think he was going to be a first-round pick. That surprised me. 19 to the Timberwolves. Didn't have many offers at all. And then
he was. He had a few D1. Wake was easily his best. I think it was his only Power 6 or high major offer, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, my dog is acting up tonight, so sorry for everybody watching right now.
Wake Forest had one of the more disappointing end of the season where they blew like a big lead in the ACC tournament and lost. If they just win one of those games, he actually he started his career at Indiana State. It looks like
he did. Yeah, he did, and then he used the transfer last year to Wake Forest. Yeah, but I was just saying his offers weren't very good out of high school.
Right. Which, I mean, he ended up at Indiana State, so that kind of proves it. But he had a great year for which I don't think many people thought he'd be a first round pick, and he ends up having a great draft process, obviously, and turning out to be. A couple other Big Ten guys here. We have Caleb Houston out of Michigan. Glad he stayed in the draft.
Me too.
Because now he's gone. So he went 32nd overall to Orlando. Max Christie went to the Lakers at 35 out of Michigan State. I did not see an NBA player in Max Christie the two times Illinois played him. He just for a 5-star guy, he just didn't seem like a one and done. And so maybe they're drafting on potential alone. I wasn't too impressed with him this year.
No, he had all the hype, like you said, 5-star guy. Mm-hmm. I thought he was going to be more of an immediate impact than he was.
And then we have E.J. Liddell.
Where'd he end up?
He went 41st to the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, I don't have who was traded, so it might have been like draft rights traded to whatever. It seems like that happens in the NBA a bunch.
And they go up on stage with a different hat.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing. Yeah. He went 45th or 41st overall. I thought he'd be a first round pick. He kind of is this year's version of Ayo Dosunmu in the Big Ten. People thought he'd be a top 20 pick, and he ends up falling into the early second round. But I think Liddell has a pretty good chance to stick there for a while. He just seems like a smart enough, good enough basketball player that he's going to be in the NBA for quite a few years.
Yeah, he's another one. I'm glad he's gone.
Me too. Me too. We had Musa Diabate out of Michigan. He was the last Big Ten player taken. He went 43rd overall to the Clippers. He was a guy that most people didn't even have getting drafted, or a lot of mock drafts I saw didn't even have him getting drafted, which is kind of surprising because I thought he was really athletic, long, good enough to take a chance on. But somebody obviously did. So, and I'm glad he's out of there too, because I thought he was going to be a real good player for Michigan over the next year or so.
Yep, I was really hoping somebody would take a chance on Travion Williams late in the second round, but
I'm kind of surprised. But a lot of times you see like late in the second round, people do those draft and stash of European players,
right? Where
they take a guy and then stash him overseas for 2 years, 3 years, try to see if he can turn into something. You don't see too many college guys taken late.
No,
which is a shame. But
and really, sometimes it's better to go undrafted and you can pick your spot. He went to the Celtics, but that's the place where Purdue pro careers go to die. So Juwan Johnson, Eton Moore, Carson Edwards. So we'll see how that works out for him. And Sasha Stevanovic went to the Spurs. So
he'll be some summer league guy for the Spurs.
Yep, and then he'll end up overseas.
Yeah, he'll end up overseas.
Which I think Travion could land somewhere in the G League.
Yeah, and maybe it's all about getting that two-way deal for those kind of guys. You get the two-way deal where you can go up and down from the G League into the NBA, and I think you make $300,000 or something like that. So if you're an undrafted free agent and get a two-way deal, that's pretty. That's pretty good. So it's and that's the same way with Kofi. I hope he gets a 2-year deal or two-way deal.
I hope he does too, because if he would have came back to Illinois, he would have been darn near a millionaire, if not a millionaire.
Yeah, he'd be making more money at Illinois, probably even with getting any sort of deal in the NBA as an undrafted guy. But I mean, he's older than Io.
He's probably you get to a certain age, you're done with college.
In which I get it. You're sick of going to school, all of that, and there's nothing left he could have proved at Illinois. Right. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Right. He'll have his number in the jersey in the rafters.
I guess
maybe
the only
even as soon as next year.
But it's not on him. Would be a deep NCAA tourney run. I mean, once again, nothing's guaranteed. So.
Right. And honestly, with him gone, I think Illinois is better set up to have a deep NCAA tourney run than they would be with him, because They kind of got too predictable. You're going to throw it down to Kofi. You can't switch on defense. Kind of bogs it down a little bit, which is great. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't rather have Kofi.
Sure, no,
but
no.
I think this team more athletic, all of that, has a better chance to be make a run in the NCAA tournament.
Well, unless you have any other notes on the NBA draft. Speaking of Big Ten hoops, we know the Big Ten ACC Challenge matchups already.
Yes, sir.
I hate this event, Josh.
Purdue gets their favorite matchup
3 times in the last 5 years, and then they also played Florida State in a 2019 non-conference tournament. I'm just tired of it. That is just lazy matchups.
Yeah, I don't understand.
They're supposedly made by ESPN. I think they try to match them up, of course, for ratings and try to make them equal. I don't care. Give Purdue Pittsburgh. Give them NC State. Give them. I know that I've seen them play both those teams, but the challenge has been around long enough. You're going to play almost everybody.
Right.
But they got a road game. Give them somewhere they haven't been in a while. It's lazy. That's all it comes down to with this matchup. At least it's laziness.
Yeah. And usually they say, well, we're trying to pair up who we think is going to be or where they're going to match up in the standings. We think both these teams will finish right around whatever, 4th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd in the Big Ten.
Right.
But it all comes down to ratings, and that's why we'll always see the Michigan State, Ohio State, and Indiana's of the world get the big time matchups. Right. Illinois draws great ratings when they're good. Purdue's alumni and fan base is smaller compared to those schools,
right? And
maybe that's why they do it. But it doesn't make any sense. I would be so bored with it playing Florida State every year, because it does seem like every single year playing Florida State.
It is a good challenge for their guards every year with the pressure and the length and athleticism, which has a lot of Purdue fans already nervous about the matchup. Like, I don't care. That's just lazy to me. Like, kind of, from a storyline perspective, I wanted Miami, even though Purdue went there 2 years ago and was the ultimate choke job collapse against a Miami team that wasn't very good. I thought that'd be kind of fun with Nigel Pack down there.
And Miami's supposed to be pretty dang good, too.
Right. So,
which I think
don't
Florida
know.
State's supposed to be pretty good, too.
This event's just, I mean, it's not going anywhere, and it shouldn't, but it's getting boring for me. I mean, when this is the case, I mean, and this stuff just happens. And I know I'm sounding like a whiny Purdue fan, but even when not too long ago, Purdue got Louisville back-to-back years.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know, just laziness.
Illinois is playing Syracuse, which I can honestly say I don't.
Syracuse.
Yeah, I don't remember in my lifetime Illinois ever playing Syracuse, so I'm completely okay with it, even if Syracuse isn't projected to be that good. I mean, I don't remember them ever playing Jim Boeheim.
Well, you guys didn't get Miami or Notre Dame. Those seem to be two programs.
Yeah, those have been the two, and they had a run there in the late 2000s, early 2000s, early 2010s, where it seems like they got Clemson about every year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very happy with Syracuse. Was hoping for North Carolina, but knew that was probably going to be Indiana. Ohio State's going to Duke.
Again, a matchup from last year.
Yeah.
Rematch.
Is it Michigan Notre Dame or is it Michigan State Notre Dame?
Michigan State Notre Dame.
Michigan State Notre Dame. Which they've played before, I remember.
I was hoping Notre Dame would come to Purdue. Now that Crossroads is off, they can start going to their venues. That'd be neat. But...
And I think they're projecting Notre Dame to be pretty good too. Which, I mean, it makes sense if they're matched up with Michigan State.
I think Michigan got Virginia.
That would make sense because Virginia got all 5 of their starting players back.
NIT champs, right?
In NIT champs, so they're looking like a top 10 team coming into the year. At least early projections. Yeah. Who's Louisville have? They get
check. I want to say maybe Maryland.
It's 2 new coaches, so it would be Maryland because I'm pretty sure it's Maryland, Louisville. And then Iowa got who did Iowa get?
I'm getting them up here.
I think it's Boston College Northwestern.
Maybe.
Rutgers in Miami, which is an interesting matchup.
Boston College is at let me make sure this is Boston College at Nebraska, Georgia Tech at Iowa.
Georgia Tech, okay.
Pittsburgh at Northwestern, Penn State at Clemson, Maryland at Louisville, Minnesota at Virginia Tech, Wake Forest at Wisconsin, Syracuse at Illinois, Rutgers at Miami, Michigan State at Notre Dame, Purdue at Florida State, Virginia at Michigan, Ohio State at Duke, and North Carolina at Indiana.
Okay. So, and then we still have the Gavitt game schedules to go, which I know Illinois will not be in that. Will Purdue be in that this year?
They were not last year, so I would think they should be.
They should be, but I know teams have had 2 years off before.
Right. Once again, it'd be fun if Purdue and Butler could be matched up since the Crossroads isn't happening.
That'd be cool. Has Purdue played at Hinkle?
Not in my lifetime.
Since you've been watching?
Nope. And they've never hosted Butler either in Mackey. So.
Oh, interesting. So it's always been at Bankers Life or whatever that is called now.
Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Gainbridge, okay. And then
NCAA
tournament once, right?
Yes. Second round up in Detroit a couple years ago after the Isaac Haas elbow game. Yep.
How's the rest of Purdue's non-conference schedule looking?
Well, they're in the really tough non-con out in Oregon. They're in the Phil Knight Invitational thing or whatever that's called. I'm going to look that up real quick because their side of the bracket is really pretty stacked. Let's see. It's the PK Invitational.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, now that I type it in, I'm not finding it. Oh, crud. That's the wrong year. No, it's not. It says 2022. This is embarrassing. Well, I know Alabama, Iowa State, Michigan State, North Carolina, Oregon, Portland, UConn, and Villanova are on one side, but Purdue's on the opposite side, and I know Duke's on their side.
What happens if they have to play Michigan State?
I don't think you can get matched up with the other side. It's
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
This is making me mad because now I can't find.
Illinois has a tough non-con. It's the toughest of the Brad Underwood era, in my opinion, except maybe his first or second year. They had a loaded one, and it did not go very well with
I found it.
Okay.
So Purdue's part is Duke, Florida, Gonzaga, Oregon State, Portland State, Purdue, West Virginia, and Xavier.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah, so they do have that. I don't think they really have any other marquee games. I know it was announced today that a new event called the Indy Classic is going to be played in Indianapolis. Purdue plays Davidson, and Ball State plays, I want to say, Illinois State in the first game. And then Purdue and Davidson, which went Purdue's favor back in 2008 when Steph Curry was there.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Crossroad was. So.
Yep. Illinois plays in the main event in Las Vegas, and they'll play two of UCLA, Virginia, and Baylor. So that'll be brutal. And then they have Texas in the Jimmy V Classic, which Texas is projected top 10 team. And then
Chris Beard's not fun to play against.
No, he's not. Syracuse, and then Missouri, of course.
Yeah.
I don't remember Illinois ever playing UCLA or Virginia.
At least it's fun to play teams you never see a team play.
Yeah. I mean, they've played Baylor 2 or 3 times the past 10 or 15 years, which that'd be an interesting one with Matthew Mayer coming back and playing Baylor. But other than that, I'm kind of rooting for a UCLA at some point.
And I know Indiana plays Kansas, Arizona, and North Carolina, so theirs is gonna be pretty tough.
Yep.
But they want to prove they're still blue bloods, so you got to prove it.
You got to prove it. Yep. Yeah, got to prove it.
Yep. Well, I got a word association that has some college athletes in it. This is a very random word association. I just kind of went through in my head guys you at least at one time just didn't like in sports, all sorts of sports. So that's
a long list to choose from there, T-Dog.
Yeah, this could be a jumbled mess. So starting off with Yadier Molina.
Neck tattoo.
All right.
He might be the worst. He's not even in the Hall of Fame yet, but he will be the worst player ever to be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. That's a
pretty big take there, but that's what the show's about.
Great defensive catcher. Terrible offensively, should not be in the Hall of Fame, but he will be. It's pretty easy to see that.
Colton
Wong, man, I hated him in his Cardinal days. Don't hate him as much with the Brewers.
Yeah.
He was just one of those players that would just get under your skin because he was not very good in his early tenure with the Cardinals, but every single double he'd hit, he'd act like he just won the World Series, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. Really good defensive second baseman, though.
This one's kind of for kicks and giggles. Drew Stubbs.
Oh, man. Our good buddy Andrew Eiler and I. This is how bad the Cubs and Reds were back in the day and how desperate we were to argue about something. Our good buddy Andrew Eiler and I would argue about who was the better outfielder, Tyler Colvin or Drew Stubbs. Both were terrible. Stubbs was probably better, but I will die on the hill that Tyler Colvin was better.
And the rest of our friend group just hated both guys because of the argument. This is probably not fair to put this guy on the list, but he's been a subject of the 10 and J-Man show for a couple years now. Jason Hayward.
Hey, I feel bad for the guy. Honestly, I do. It's not his fault. I have started to despise Jason Hayward, and that's not fair to him. I don't hate Jason Hayward. But today, actually this week, I think it might have been today, Jed Hoyer was talking about Hayward and said, we have the work he does with these young guys, mentoring and all that. He's still very valuable to this franchise. So he kind of played it both ways, didn't say one way or the other, which way, he was thinking. But David Ross came out today and said loyalty is key. So loyalty above all else, which tells me that he's going to continue to play him even though he's terrible. And that was the one concern, a big concern we had when the Cubs hired David Ross. How's he going to manage these players he played with? Well, he's showing his cards now. Yep. And we're finding out, and it's not going well. So
I wish I had a bleep button ready for the next few of these names. But,
Oh boy.
Tom Ricketts. What's there to be said that hadn't already been said, right?
Yeah, I've said so much about him. It's getting to the point where the FCC will shut us down if we continue to talk about him.
Stephen Ross.
So, Stephen, I prefer him to Tom Ricketts, and I cannot stand Stephen Ross.
Yep,
his wanting to go out and get Deshaun Watson really rubbed me the wrong way. However, he does spend in off seasons, unlike Tom Ricketts. So it's kind of one of those. I hate them both, but yeah, I think that
was good.
Yeah,
I'm sweating. Joe Philbin.
Oh, Joe Philbin, Mr. Mackey, South Park.
That's a good comparison.
That's who he reminds me of. He was more concerned about cleaning up the trash in the locker room than he was putting a quality football product on the field.
Probably more in this guy's New England days, but Tom Brady.
Yeah, I hated playing against him. Obviously, respect the heck out of him.
You gotta respect the guy. How do you not?
Didn't hate him as much as a lot of people did. Cause he's just like, what do you do? I mean, he's one of the greatest ever.
And the Dolphins actually usually would get him once in a while.
Yeah,
so
Dolphins would get him in Miami. I think they only beat him, at least since 2008, only twice in New England.
Hey, helped the Broncos win a Super Bowl because of it. Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton. I never hated Peyton. I hated the team he played for. I didn't even hate the team he played for. I hated the fans of the team he played for. They were obnoxious back in the 2000s that I just couldn't stand. Now I don't mind the Colts as much. You don't hear about them, especially not living in Indiana anymore. But growing up, going to school with all these Colts fans was miserable back in the day when they were good. Speaking of that category, Andrew Luck. Luck, I never hated Luck either, but my dad begs to differ. Well, I would just make comments to make your dad mad. Is worked the thing I would do, and I took great joy out of that. That's why I rip on Carson Wentz as much as I do. I should have put him on the list. But yeah, and he had the old Kyle Orton neck beard going on as well. Hope he's enjoying retirement. I know I would be. Got a few others here. This guy I love because he blocked you on Twitter. Tim Beckman. Timmy Beckman. Oh, man. What to say about old Ted? Lasagna. His wife's lasagna. Going to have a team over every Friday night and my wife's going to make lasagna. That worked out well. Yeah, that dude, I will give him credit. Started 2-10, went to 4-8, went to 6-6, and then he gets fired. So he actually, he was a much better football coach than Lovie Smith was. Yeah, he was. But he was a buffoon. That's about the best way I can describe him as buffoon. My mom's favorite guy in sports here, Brian Kelly. Hothead. Down in the bayou. Yeah. Had some kid go up on scaffolding to film practice, and the kid ended up dying. That is hitting my lasting memory of Brian Kelly, is a kid dying under his watch. Screaming and him getting off scot-free. Yeah. Tom Izzo. Oh, whiny. Doesn't stop whining. The officials help him out too. Only got his number this year though. It's kind of nice to see. This one I don't think you hate this guy like I do, but maybe you do. Dane Five. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on him because I didn't really watch Big Ten basketball back when he played, so I don't really remember him. I'm sure he's super dirty. Yeah. There's probably a reason why he was let go by Indiana, though. I don't think he was really well liked there. And I haven't heard if he's landed anywhere or not. I don't think he has. So which that tells you all you need to know. Well, we got 4 more, and they're all Big Ten related here. So Hunter Dickinson. Hate Hunter Dickinson. He is the most. He's the cockiest, and he backs it up. He's a great player, but really good player. Has not beaten Illinois yet, which I'm very happy with, but he does not shut up about Illinois, and it makes us so mad because he can't beat them yet. He can't stop talking about them. Illinois living in his head, rent free in Hunter Dickinson's head. So you hate to see it. Jordan Bohannon. The elderly Bohannon who's been around for 90 years, it feels like. Talk about living rent-free in a guy's head. They haven't beaten Illinois in 3 years, and he still just cannot shut up about them. I'm sure him getting punched, a lot of people were very happy with him getting his lights knocked out there last summer.
2 more. Draymond Green.
Draymond, talked about him last week, how much we hated him.
Right.
Good Big Ten player, obviously a good pro. Runs his mouth, cocky, all of that. But hey, it gets under guys' skin, gets in their head, so it's effective for him.
And last, Kevin Warren.
Oh man, he's not the worst commissioner in sports. I
agree with you there.
I know we all know who that is. But he bungled the COVID, and of course he was in an unenviable position. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he made an absolute mess out of everything he's done so far. Every single thing he's touched has turned to crap. In the Big Ten. And I think they're moving towards getting rid of divisions in the Big Ten, which you'll have 4 teams maybe competing for a Big Ten championship. Then no one else gets a shot.
It's not going to change anything really. It's still going to be the same teams.
It's going to be Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan.
You're going to get a lot of back-to-back week rematches of Ohio State and Michigan a lot of years.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it.
So I understand why they're probably going to do it.
That was a good list.
Thanks. Yeah. And that is the Word Association segment, which is brought to you by Proforma Print 2 Promo Group. If you're looking for a trustworthy, dependable resource for your next trade show, company picnic, or sales meeting, Proforma Print 2 Promo Group has over 50 years combined experience in promotional products and commercial print. They strive for fast and efficient response to all your print needs. You need to look no further. Let them be your one-source print and promotional company today by giving Barbara Van Weinsberg a call at 574-210-3815.
This episode is brought to you by The Damn Landing. Whether you want an epic burger, hand-tossed pizza, hand-breaded tenderloin, seafood, craft beer, or a handcrafted cocktail, The Damn Landing is the place to be. The Damn Landing is a bar and grill located on beautiful Lake Manitou, focused on freshness and quality. You can wash down their delicious food with one of their 16 beers on tap, including a constant rotation of today's best microbrews and domestic flavors, or a handcrafted cocktail made using fresh ingredients. Taking the fantastic views of Lake Manitou in their beer garden or outdoor bar area, whether it be boat or wheels, The Damn Landing is the place to be, located at 1305 Ewing Road in Rochester. Do you want to get educated here real quick? I'm not talking about baseball this week. We are running out of time.
Yeah, we are running out of time.
I will fly through this. I still have to do a book it as well. On this day in 1979, heavyweight Muhammad Ali confirms that his third retirement is final. In parentheses,
told you he retired multiple times.
So
I didn't know he retired multiple times. Huh.
Yeah, me either. On this day in 1988, Mike Tyson did something good. He KO'd Michael Spinks in 91 seconds.
It's pretty fast.
In Atlantic City, and he won $67 million. That's a lot of money in 88. That's a lot of money now, but back in 88, guys weren't winning that.
He won $67 million?
That's what it says.
Oh, what?
Which is insane back then.
What?
That's what it said. Yeah.
Oh, no.
That seems wrong.
Yeah, it does, but okay.
Yeah, maybe it was $6.7 million.
Still, that's a lot of money back then.
Still, that's a lot, yeah. In 1990, on this day, Jose Canseco signed a record $4.7 million per year Oakland A's contract.
Bash brother.
Who was the number 1 overall pick in the 1990 NBA draft?
90?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have a guess.
Derek Coleman. I don't think you would have gotten that one.
Nope, Syracuse.
On this day in 2001, who was the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft? It was a high school player.
Kwame Brown.
Kwame Brown by the Washington Wizards. He was a bust.
Yeah.
Who was the number 1 pick taken in 2013?
It's the dude at Toronto. I can't. Bargnani? Barn.
2013?
Yeah. No, I'm wrong.
Bargnani was like 2006, wasn't he?
I don't know why I can't my name.
Anthony Bennett.
Oh, well, he's forgettable.
Talk about biggest bust.
Yeah, you're right. I did. You are
Uh,
right. That guy in Toronto was the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's going to do it, though, for On This Day.
And that is the On This Day segment, which is brought to you by Mooney Woodcrafts. Mooney Woodcrafts is a veteran-owned and operated custom woodcraft shop based out of North Carolina with Indiana grassroots. They provide 100% hand-cut custom designs that fit your needs. From signs to grow charts, their custom pieces make a great addition to any home, office, or man cave. To see some of their recently completed projects, visit their Facebook page or Instagram at Mooney Woodcrafts. And for orders, contact them at mooneywoodcrafts@gmail.com.
The Cubs had one of the more shocking sweeps in the history of shocking series win in the history of baseball, taking 2 of 3 from the Cardinals. But this will be the J-Man's bucket prediction of the week here real quick. The Cubs will win back-to-back series for the first time, what feels like 3 months, when they take on the Reds this week for 3 in Wrigley Field. Cubs have been a terrible home team, so it wouldn't be surprised me to see them get swept. They do have to face Luis Castillo and Hunter Green. But I think Cubs win back-to-back series for the first time.
Wow, it's a positive booking.
In a while. Book it! J-Man's Book of Prediction of the Week brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance Agent Travis Watchering for life, home, auto, business, renters, workers' comp, and farm insurance. Contact Travis at 219-869-4561. His email is travis.watchering@infb.com.
And tomorrow's National Insurance Awareness Day, so keep Travis in mind there.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I only gave you 3 minutes to talk.
That's okay.
Hockey.
That's okay. Like I said at the start of the podcast, the Avalanche finished off the Tampa Bay Lightning last night to win the series 4-2, winning their 3rd cup in franchise history. Pretty good for a franchise that moved from Quebec down to Denver in 95. They've made 3 Stanley Cup finals, and they've won all 3 of them in their franchise history. That's pretty impressive. So they'll have now 3 places on the Stanley Cup right now with some of their teams on it. The city of Denver, besides a Broncos town, the Avalanche is number 2, at least when they're good. It's not even close. The Nuggets and Rockies aren't even close. And hockey seems to do that to a lot of communities, it seems like.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
And, they really – I mean, I might be a little biased, but the Avalanche were the best team all year. But that didn't mean they were going to get it done.
Yeah. What I see, they were just the 5th team in the last 35 years, I think, to be the preseason favorites to end up winning the Stanley Cup.
It's tough. And Lightning were coming off back-to-back Stanley Cup championships, and they were trying to become a dynasty, do a 3-peat. Mm-hmm. And the Avalanche said no way. It was a good series, though. I mean, really competitive. Definitely the 2 best teams in hockey. Just really happy for a lot of the guys. I mean, Nathan McKinnon, young stud in the leagues, finally can call himself a winner. Gabriel Landeskog's been the captain for a decade or so in Colorado. He's finally a winner. Eric Johnson, he's been through some awful times with the Avalanche. And the Avalanche, they were the worst team in hockey 5 years ago. And now they're Stanley Cup champions. I mean, credit to Joe Sakic, legendary player. I'm going to call him the best Avalanche player of all time. I don't think there's too many people to argue with me with that. And he's stuck with Jared Bednard, even though a lot of people were calling for his head for being an early playoff round exit 3 years in a row. Stuck with him, saw it through. He pressed right buttons this year. This team should be good for many more years to come. I mean, Mikko Rantanen still a stud. Kel McCarr wins the best he won the trophy for the best defenseman in the NHL. Then he wins the trophy that goes to the MVP of the Stanley Cup last night, and he's only 23 years old. So, guys stepped up when they needed to. It was a fun ride all the way in the playoffs, and it gets me juiced up already to keep watching them next year. But you don't want to take these things for granted because 2001 was a long time ago, and you can go. You know it in sports, you can go a long time without seeing any of your teams do anything. So very fun though.
2016 was a long time ago.
And what I wanted to say about the Rockies earlier was, so the Avalanche have been there since '95. The Rockies a couple of years before that. The Rockies have been to a World Series, but they've only made the playoffs 3 or 4 times and have still yet to win a division title. So
it's not going to happen anytime soon either.
Can't even compare the two. It's not even close.
Birdie Bogey here real quick. What Big Ten school has the most first-round picks in NBA draft history with 28?
I don't think I'm right here, but they keep coming back to my head. I think it's Ohio State.
They are third most.
Not even second. Oh, great. Now we're tied.
Indiana second.
Yeah.
Does that narrow it down? Michigan. 28.
It didn't even come to my head, and that makes so much sense. Didn't even come to my
Yeah.
head. Even recently, they had 2 this year in the draft. I'm an idiot. I deserve a bogey. We deserve to be tied. I'm mad at myself.
We are combined.
That's
how
awful.
many?
I mean, we're 6 over par, I think, each.
How many weeks into the year were we're about 20 some? We're almost halfway. So 24, 25 weeks into the year, and we are a combined plus 12.
That was the worst one I've missed yet, I think.
We're terrible.
That was awful.
I don't know if I would have picked Michigan. Although Michigan has had a lot recently. That's the only reason why they're in.
That makes sense. I'm an idiot.
Thanks for watching the Tan and J-Man show. Next week.
Yes, programming note.
Yes, we will be streaming on Wednesday, I believe. Is that correct?
Wednesday, yes, the 6th.
Since the 4th of July. And actually, I will be in Rochester on the 4th of July partying it up. So I will not be able to be in studio then. But Wednesday night, we will be live at 6:30 again.
Yep.
So have a fantastic week, everybody. Have a great 4th of July. We'll be back at it next week.